Greetings, everyone. My name is Jennifer Kragbe, and I will be your host for today's 5 Tips to a Smooth PCS webinar. First off, I want to thank you for joining me for this webinar, whether you're watching the live stream on jokpr.com or on Google Hangouts. I have a lot of fun and useful information for you here today, so let's go ahead and dive right in. We'll start with introductions. Like I said, my name is Jennifer Kragbe. I am currently a public relations graduate student at Full Sail University. I am also the head key spouse and resiliency training assistant for the 1st Helicopter Squadron at Joint Andrews Air Force Base. I work hand in hand with the squadron commander and the first shirt to promote individual, family, and unit readiness. Now, this role also requires me to spend a lot of time organizing and promoting squadron functions, providing peer-to-peer support, maintaining and updating community resources and services, and I also welcome families and cultivate relationships within the squadron. Now, frequent moves are a big part of the military lifestyle. In fact, according to military.com, about 225,000 Department of Defense and U.S. Coast Guard household goods shipments are slated each year for movement during the summer months. Moreover, a little over half of that are active duty and dependents that have never experienced a permanent change of station, or otherwise known as a PCS. Now, although PCS moves can be a very positive experience, they can also be a very trying ordeal, especially if you're new to the military community. That's why it's important to stock up on as many tips and tricks as possible the minute you receive word that you are hot for a change of station. As it just so happens, during a PCS season, active duty members are typically overwhelmed without processing paperwork from their unit or their squadron. Therefore, many of the moving duties fall back on the spouse. Now, over the years, many of military spouses have stockpiled the best PCS tips from either their personal experience or advice from more seasoned military spouses. Now, over the next 10 minutes or so, I will explain in detail the top 5 most frequently used tips that are implemented by many military spouses during a PCS move. By the end of this webinar, you will have a better understanding of the standard procedures involved with a PCS move. In addition, you will also have knowledge and tools necessary to assist you in staying calm and organized during this hectic time. So first things first. Your spouse comes home and says, "Honey, we're moving." Don't panic. Whatever you do, don't panic. In fact, the best thing for you to do while your brain is irrationally running around thinking a million thoughts per second, write everything down. According to a recent study and a forthcoming issue of the Journal Psychological Science, the Journal for Psychological Science, using a pen and paper, not laptops or cell phones, to take notes to boost the memory and the ability to retain and understand concepts. Thus, writing it down will not only help you rationalize your thoughts, but you will be more likely to remember them later, even without having the paper in front of you. So what do you do with your list of questions and concerns? Well, you put it in a PCS binder. This will be the ultimate tool for keeping all your necessary documents together, and believe me, you will have a lot of documents. For instance, you want about 30 copies of your PCS orders. And I'm not kidding. You want 30 of them. Everyone you encounter during the PCS move will ask you for a copy of your PCS orders. Now, to help save time and energy, it's best to have them on hand before you begin your out-processing meetings. Just to name a few other things, you might want to have a few copies of your marriage certificate, or copies of your military ID. Like I said, you most likely have to speak on behalf of your entire family for this entire PCS move. If you're not the military member, you can expect people to ask you for proof of who you are, who you say you are, thus your military ID. Now, this binder can also be used as a good spot for school records, medical records, and packing slips that you receive from movers, and any other documents that you receive during out processing, which we'll go over later. Keep this binder as close to you at all times whenever you can. You never know when you're going to need it, and you certainly do not want to lose it. After you've bedazzled your binder, then where do you go? Well, you quickly come to the realization that almost every movement made by the military is a big game of hurry up and wait. Let's go back to that moment when your spouse came home and told you that you were getting ready to move. Now, more often than not, you will find out that you're moving before the military officially tells you you are. So it's important that you do not get so wound up before you officially receive the orders. However, once you have received the orders, you will want to get started right away. In fact, the first few steps that you make in this process will determine the flow of the rest of your move. The longer you wait to start making appointments and checking off your to-do list, the bigger the toll it will be on your stress level. Speaking of your first step, there's no better place to start than your installation's transportation office, especially if it's your first PCS. You remember that piece of paper you wrote down all your initial questions and concerns on? This is the appointment where 90% of those inquiries are going to get answers. In most cases, you will sit down with a moving specialist and they will assign you a military relocation coordinator. This coordinator will help you schedule your packing and pickup times, vehicle transportation, long and short storage options, weight entitlements, and DITY options. DITY, or otherwise known as do-it-yourself moves, can be very tricky. But if you do all your homework ahead of time, they can also be extremely convenient. Let me be clear. If you follow the guidelines laid out by your coordinator, your move should be at no cost to you. Make these decisions wisely, because once you have made one, it's very difficult to make changes. That's not to scare you. Those are just the facts. I have a lot of women come up to me in the past in complete panic because they couldn't find the correct information, or they didn't know who to go to for the answers. Most of the time it was because they did not attend the out processing briefing with their spouse at the transportation office. Please, please, please do not miss this meeting, and don't forget your binder. So after you've figured out how you're going to get to your new base, now it's time to find more out about where you're going. Now, I know what you're thinking. Shouldn't this be the first thing that I do? Well, there's a difference in opinions in this answer. However, I will put it this way. You have a 50-50% chance of liking the new base that you're being assigned to when you first hear the news. If you don't like the base and you start researching it, and you find even more things that you don't like about it, how receptive do you think you're going to be during the meeting at the transportation office? Probably not. Nevertheless, do your homework. Find out more information about the squadron or unit and its mission. Most squadrons have a sponsorship program that assign a squadron veteran to newcomers. It might behoove you to make the first contact with either your sponsor or your key spouse. Look on Facebook. Almost every squadron or unit has a spouse page where you can go on and introduce yourself and ask questions. You might also want to contact the Family Support Center or the FRC or the FSC. I mean, there's so many different acronyms for it, it's ridiculous. Either way, it's the Family Support Center. They will be able to inform you of all the base programs, employment opportunities, and newcomer benefits. Finally, you might want to research some schools if you have children, crime rates, local activities, community amenities. Once you get a baseline of what's available to you, either around your base or on your base, then you can make housing decisions. Which leads me to the final topic of the day, housing. Here's where the real fun begins. And yes, I really do mean fun. If you decide to go with base housing, you'll want to put yourself on the list immediately. Base housing is usually issued on a first come, first served basis. So the sooner you get yourself on the list, the better chances you have of getting a house when you arrive. I do have to make a little side note here. Please do not feel pressured into taking base housing. I have to be honest, it's not for everybody. It's really not. You receive about 10 days or so of hotel stay when you first arrive at your location. If you get there and you're not happy with base housing, don't settle. It's not worth it. Base housing contracts are the same as civilian contracts. They last 1 year and they require extreme circumstances to break. If you're the slightest bit doubtful of living on base, use your downtime while you're doing your moving duties to research housing in the local community. It's worth it. Just take a peek. Take those 10 days of billeting and explore your options. Go out, look at houses, see the community, see what everything's about. Just breathe it all in. Once the movers come to drop off your home goods, they will not pick it back up and they won't move it to another location. So have fun, but choose wisely. Now, I know this sounds like a lot of information, and I hope you were able to absorb most of it. But I'd like to leave you with one final thought. You're going to encounter a lot of good and a lot of bad things during your move. Some days are going to be really productive, and some days pulling your hair out might seem like the most valuable option. Just try to keep things in perspective. Only worry about the things that you can control, and let everything else take its course. Like I said before, frequent moves are a natural part of the military community. This might be your first move, but it most likely will not be your last. Stay positive and learn from this experience. At this time, I'd like to open up the floor for any questions, comments, or concerns. If there are no questions or comments or concerns, then I'd like to thank you for joining me today. I hope that some of the information I went over was helpful. I wish you the best of luck on your move. If you would like any additional information or if you would like to review this presentation in the future, you are welcome to log in to jokpr.com, or you can see it on YouTube as well. I thank you again, and you all have a nice day.